Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. Chelsea have been demolished by Newcastle 4-1 in what is basically a tale of two sides, isn't it? On the one side, Newcastle deserve massive praise. Some people felt they were vulnerable. I did. They were absolutely superb. Never write Newcastle off at St James's Park. But Chelsea were an absolute disgrace. And at what point, I suppose the most important people are Chelsea fans, at what point do the media start to scrutinise Chelsea? Because that was a disgrace today. And it almost feels to me with Chelsea, there's just this free pass to Pochettino and his coaches that, it's a lot of work that needs doing. And it's almost like sweep it under the carpet that you've been demolished, embarrassed by Newcastle today. Oh, it's fine, it's going to take time. £1 billion spent in 12 months. The talent that Chelsea have, their bench was way better than Newcastle's today. They played very well against Manchester City, but they conceded 4 goals. And they've done it again. 8 goals conceded in 2 games. Their defending belongs on a pub Sunday morning football pitch. I mean, the first goal they're trying to play offside. The second goal they're not marking up. The third goal, Thiago Silva inexplicably makes a mistake. And then the third goal, Badiashile and the keeper, it's an absolute farce. I mean, this is pub defending for Chelsea, who have a coach who the media just seem to want to ignore because he's media friendly and everyone likes him. Oh, let's go after Ten Hag. Let's go after Ten Hag. Let's go after somebody else. There is a glaringly obvious problem at Chelsea and it is not acceptable. And I think Chelsea fans, get in the comments and tell me what you think, because I don't see... I look at you today and Newcastle, when you could have played till Christmas and you still wouldn't have found goals to equalise. The gap would have got bigger and bigger and bigger, in fact. It was easy for Newcastle in the end. And it was easy before the red card. They were way better than you, and yet Newcastle are vulnerable. Newcastle are a team that people look at the moment and go, will they get top 4? They've got problems. They're back in Europe. Their squad's not big enough. We saw that with their bench today. But one thing that Eddie Howe gets out of that team is 100% organisation and 100% effort. I mean, they've got Lascelles in the back 4. They haven't got Botman. They've got a midfield that's got a 17-year-old in it. They were vulnerable today and they battered Chelsea. Chelsea have got way better players on paper, but there's no fluidity. Their midfield made no impact on that game today. The front 3, all right, Sterling scores a good goal, but again, there's no fluidity there. They're like strangers. Newcastle would have had that excuse because of the players they've got missing, but Chelsea, Palmer, Sterling and Jackson, they played together. They played together. That defence has played together. And it was all over the place. There was absolutely no fluidity in that team at all. They looked dangerous in the first half on the break, but look, Jackson's not a striker. They've got no cutting edge. As soon as they go 2-1 down, you fear the worst. They did well to get back to 1-1, but I mean, they don't create good chances. This is a Chelsea problem. They don't create good chances. And when they don't get hold of the midfield, look, Man United have got Chelsea next week. I was quite worried because the Cedo, Gallagher and Enzo Fernandez midfield is much better than United's. But then I watched them play there and I think, well, they've got no cutting edge. They're not defending well and they don't seem to do well away from home. So Chelsea this season, what is it? Drawn 4, won 4, lost 5. That's horrific form. I mean, Graham Potter lost his job and they were nowhere near as bad as this. Nowhere near as bad as this. I remember watching Chelsea under Potter. They were keeping clean sheets. Well, they weren't. They lost a few. But they weren't conceding many, but they just couldn't score. Now they're conceding bloody loads. Absolutely loads of goals finding the back of the net. And look, I'm not saying Pochettino should lose his job. It's not my job to say that. But I think the lack of scrutiny, the media almost sweep it under the carpet and, it's acceptable. It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, is it? Well, Man United were nowhere near this bad under the first season of Ten Hag. Look at where Spurs are under Ange. They've got 10 more points, Spurs. And Ange hasn't had anywhere near the money spent on him that Poch has had, and he didn't inherit the squad either. There is a huge, huge problem at Chelsea. They've conceded, how many goals have they conceded? 20 goals they've conceded. Nobody in the top half of the table has conceded more than that, apart from Brighton with 23, but they've scored 28, and West Ham who's conceded 23 as well. It's shocking. They've conceded more goals than Brentford, and Brentford have played a game less. They've conceded more than Palace. they've conceded the same as Fulham. It's absolutely crap from Chelsea, and I think questions do need to be asked, if I'm being honest. I just think it's not acceptable. Would I sack... Look, I'm not going to sit on the fence here. Would I sack Pochettino? Well, if you've got a viable option to come in, but I think Chelsea's problem is very, very clear. There's no balance in that squad. They've bought badly, and they've got no cohesion. They play like strangers. I don't think the players fit together. I don't think the system works. I mean, one of the big problems I had with Chelsea today is I thought the Man City game was good, but it was chucking it down with rain. It was... You get those games. It might have been a one-off. But I look at Chelsea today, and the one thing you will always get from a Newcastle side, and we saw it in the Carabao Cup when they beat Man United, lots of changes to the Newcastle first team, but they still play the same way. There's still the same organisation. There's still the same cohesion. You look at Chelsea today, lots of good players on the pitch, no cohesion. And I do question why Cedo's on the bench. I question that. I mean, I don't know the full facts, but Cedo on the bench, I presume it's because he travelled a lot because of the international break. I mean, I couldn't give a shit, really. As a Chelsea fan, I'd be like, why is he on the bench? Because he played international football. What's more important, Chelsea or international football? Now, if he's going to play from the start and get injured, you don't do it. But if he's on the bench, he's got minutes. Put him in the team. This is where international football and the volume of games pisses me off, because how does that benefit Chelsea Football Club when Cedo can't play because he's travelled back late from international football? It's a bloody nonsense, and they missed him in that midfield today as well. They had no control of it. So I think there's huge questions to be asked about Chelsea. It's completely unacceptable. That start to the season is completely unacceptable. Getting stuffed 4-1 is completely unacceptable. And it's, we're basically closing in on Christmas now. How long is it? It's Chelsea Football Club. It's Chelsea Football Club. You can't just sit there writing off games going, it'll come good in the end. I think there has to be a limit on that. Why is it not coming good yet? And we talk about the pressure on Ten Hag, but we talk about the success that Ange has had in a short period of time. It doesn't look good for Poch, but he seems to be a protected species in the media. I'm not saying he should be sacked, but he should certainly be under more scrutiny. I'd be interested to see what people say in the comments. As for Newcastle, I can only wax lyrical. Yes, they've got loads of money, of course they have, but they've also got loads of injuries, and that money can't help them at the moment. They're also competing in the Champions League in a very hard group and then having to play at the weekend, which money can't help them with at the moment. They're also picking 17-year-olds in their midfield, and they don't really have any decent centre-backs beyond what they've got, and Botman's out missing. And Eddie Howe is still getting results, getting organisation, getting goals out of that team. In a few years' time, Newcastle won't have to worry about what they've got to worry about at the moment, because that money will find its way into the club and the quality and depth and squad will be there. And they are very rich, but that money isn't really directly helping them at the moment. They've got an injury crisis. They don't have a lot of depth. They're playing a lot of games. They are a little bit vulnerable. And yet, never write Newcastle off at St James's Park. That they were absolutely incredible today. And whilst they can win games like that at home, they're always going to be there or thereabouts. And I think Newcastle deserve a massive amount of credit today, because I think they looked a bit vulnerable after recent weeks and the injuries that they've got and the lack of depth that they've got. But that home crowd, that coaching, that motivation, absolutely incredible today. And they thoroughly deserved the win. But Chelsea, Brighton next, Man United after that, they've got to do a lot better, because I think really questions need to be asked now. And another loss, and you'd start to worry about it, because they're 10th at the moment. It only takes Brentford to get a point, or Wolves, and it's scroll down FC for Chelsea. Get your comments in below. Smash a like on the video. I'll speak to you on the next one.